Howdy, guys. Attorney Walter Hnot. We're all set and ready to go. My apologies for being late. As per the usual, I'm always late. So let's get right to it. These are the top 10 states going into essentially 2023 that are facing the worst inflation. And therefore, it's not a good thing to be on Social Security benefits, a fixed income, when heading into essentially 2023 for these particular states. Now, when we go through this, remember, the whole point of understanding this is that there's like a little tipping teapot thingy. We have basically states over here that have high inflation. We have states over here that have low inflation. A lot of people don't realize that some states have a lot more inflation than other states. And as a result, when you get your COLA boost, if you're in a high inflation state, your COLA boost is not going to help you as much as if you were in a low inflation state, because they look at all the states and then they go ahead and give you a COLA for the federal overall average. So let's get right to it. Please remember, Attorney Walter Hnot, Howdy, Mike Malone, Attorney Walter Hnot, Disability Resolution PA. If you're looking to go ahead and sign up for disability benefits or need me to appeal something, give me a call. All right. Also remember, please like, subscribe, and leave 5-star reviews. Now, with that said, these are it. These are the 10 states. And what we're going to answer today are what are the 10 states. When does essentially the inflation start to whipple out and we get deflation, right? And how will that come about in 2023? Let's go into it. State number one that had the absolute worst inflation in the United States in 2022 and will likely continue to have the worst inflation in 2022 is Hawaii. Hawaii came in with around a 13.96 inflation ratio. You, of course, did not end up with that as per the ratio that they paid out. They gave you an 8.7, but you can see why Hawaii was so very, very high. Now, number two on this list would be Massachusetts. Massachusetts had the second highest inflation in the entire country in 2022 as a state, not federal overview, but just as a state. So Massachusetts came in at basically 11.44 using their type of math, their type of metrics for a cost of living adjustment. And of course, you only get an 8.7. Number three on this list is, of course, the District of Columbia. I thought they were going to be number two, but they weren't. Massachusetts beat them. The District of Columbia came in at 11.31 cost of living adjustment. Basically, it's your blue states. That's what it's, the hardcore left blue states are going to come in like this. And let's go to the next one, number four. Number four, not that I'm saying that's bad or that they're bad. People get so offended. Inflation ratio. Bottom line is that you obviously get an 8.7. Let's go to number five. Number five is Alaska, the only red state that you're going to be hearing on this whole thing. Alaska's way up there. It's hard to get resources there, and it gets very cold there. All right, next thing. Let's go to number six. Number six is New York. New York, classic, very, very blue state. They came in with a 10.48 COLA adjustment. You, of course, got an 8.7. Let's go ahead and take a look at number seven, which is, that's surprising, Oregon. Okay, yeah. So they came in number seven with a 9.83. I would have expected them quite a bit lower, but a 9.83 COLA. We're starting to get closer to that 8.7 COLA of what you actually got from the federal. Number 8 comes in with Vermont. Not a huge surprise there, Vermont. They come in with a 9.7% COLA change for 2022 going into the 2023. Of course, you got an 8.7. Let's go to number 9. Number 9 is Maryland. Maryland, a 9.68. 9.68. A 9.68 is basically, we're getting there. We're getting close to the 8.7. All right, so that's pretty good. Let's go to number 10. Remember, we're doing the top 10. Number 10 to round us out is Connecticut. Okay, that makes sense. Connecticut came in at 9.61 COLA. And of course, federal rate, you're getting the 8.7. So just to give you the top 10, it goes down to a 9.61, and it goes all the way up to a 13.96, which is, of course, Hawaii. Hawaii is an island nation. Now, what would be interesting to see also would be what were the percentage change increases for some of the United States possessions, like Puerto Rico or some of the islands north of Hawaii, because, Puerto Rico, everybody with a Rolex and a Bitcoin ended up there buying a house on the water that they're not really having to pay taxes on going forward the same way we do. And so I would imagine their inflation just shot through the roof, which is really going to suck for a lot of those inhabitants there that are the naturalized natives to Puerto Rico. But that's unfortunately the curse of America on any land that it comes to. It makes everything really, really expensive. So All right, guys. So now I want to talk about something real quick. I think it's important. And this is the best part of what we've just been through. We've just been through hell. And I know some people were telling me that we were in the best economy of our entire lives. And, and I remember how I made those political videos where I explained to you what happened, what factually occurred. And then people went insane and called up and threatened the office and stuff like that, which was, here we go. We even had one person in the comments like screaming in caps that, basically the article disproved me, even though my entire video was about how the article was incorrect because it cited to the actual document, like the whole thing was about, and that the actual document never said those things. So naturally, I got a little bit frustrated with that. But anyways, the point is, there's something good on the horizon. I don't know if it's going to happen in 2023. It might happen in 2024, probably at the end of 2023. It might be good for Biden leading into basically the presidential race, somewhere around there. He might, fiddle with it to happen then. I don't know. But bottom line is, there's something called deflation. And deflation is likely to occur, okay, after a massive inflation. I'm going to read from you guys real quick what Wikipedia has on the minor deflations in the United States so that you understand the history of it. And then we're going to pop right over to basically what this means for you guys. Okay. Throughout the history of the United States, inflation has approached zero and dipped below for short periods of time. Remember, deflation, it's where the COLA or just, the cost of things increasing actually goes down. This was quite common in the 19th century and in the 20th century until the permanent abandonment of the gold standard for the Bretton Woods system in 1948. In the past 60 years, the United States has only experienced deflation 2 times. In 2009, with the Great Recession, which is a funny name to call that, and in 2015, when the CPI barely broke below 0% at negative 0.1%. Okay, some economists believe that the United States may have experienced deflation as part of the financial crisis of 2007 to 2010. Compare the theory of deflation. Year on year, consumer prices dropped for 6 months in a row to end August 2009, largely due to a steep decline since at least 1947. That record was broken in November of 2008 with a 1.7% decline. In response, the Federal Reserve continued cutting interest rates down to a near zero range as of December 16th, 2008. All right, so let me go through this real quick so you kind of understand what's going on here. We had god-awful inflation, just absolutely, absolutely horrible. And as a result of that really bad inflation, we are now facing the roller coaster ride where we are peering over the part where it starts to slam back down. And so what you can expect in 2003 and 2004, house prices are going to slam back down. They're going to play games with oil prices. And basically, you're going to see a cost of living adjustment, hopefully, roller coastering downward so that the inflation isn't as bad. Now, remember, the worse the inflation, the worse you guys get screwed over. The higher the COLA number, the cost of living adjustment, the more you guys get screwed over because they calculate that COLA super low so that they get to pay you less, even though everything costs significantly more. Most people would agree 25% to 33% increase in inflation for 2022, and you're sitting there with an 8.7 going, what the hell? All right, so with that said, I want to go through a couple little details. Oh, Burlington, New Jersey. Victoria Wood, howdy. I'm in Harmony, New Jersey right now. So now that we've covered that, let me kind of give you an instruction as to what to expect. You can expect that you will see a slight benefit as a result of this roller coaster ride starting to go down. When Jimmy Carter faced this situation, he had his 11.2 inflation in 1981, right before it got, it went all the way up to 14 for Jimmy Carter. So, remember, he was particularly bad. But his problem was that the inflation, that giant roller coaster up, it went for a longer period and it was bad. It was very, very severe. Whereas Biden has hit the tipping point of the roller coaster and we're now looking downward. So expect that towards the end of 2023 into the beginning of 2024, your money is actually going to help you out the most through that deflation period. So if you have any heavier expenses that you need to go ahead and purchase something or whatever, wait it out a little bit until you hit that deflation point. That way you're doing okay, because right now we're still way too high for everything, and it's just ridiculous. Okay. Now, with that said, we're going to open up the phone calls. I'm super tired today. I worked too hard yesterday in the barn. I worked for 5 hours last night from like 10ish until like 3ish. So the bottom line is I'm not feeling so great myself. We're going to start taking phone calls. I know I missed a bunch of them already. That's okay. What I'm going to do is take the initial phone calls and begin this process so that we can keep this thing rolling. Here we go. Please remember, when you call in, to use a fake name throughout the process. I'm going to put the phone number into the chat section right here. That way you know how to call in. Once you see me getting off the phone, you can call in. But please remember, I either answer a question or run hearing questions, and also use a fake name throughout this process when you call in. Super important. Make sure you use a fake name throughout the process when you call in, okay? We're going to get the first person on the phone, and then we should be good to go ahead and go through the process. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. We are live on YouTube. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to go ahead and run hearing questions? And remember to use a fake name. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Bill, and I got tied up with an attorney that wants to help me out with my claim. However, he's not doing anything. He's almost impossible to contact, and I was wondering what I have to do to part company with this man.
So if you got an attorney or a non-legal rep that basically isn't doing anything, which is not uncommon for the disability field, one of the problems I always face is that we spend too much time and too much money per claimant, and then I just don't make enough to pay my damn student loans. But if you've got a person that's not doing anything, not calling you back, stuff like that, you call them and you send them a letter. You can do both. But the first thing is, number one, call them and request that person withdraw for two things. Thing number one, representation, and thing number two, fees. If they feel like they really haven't done well your claim, they'll probably withdraw for representation and fees as well. What a lot of the really shitty big boxy firms do is they'll sign up multiple attorneys with multiple 1696s on your claim. So when they withdraw from one of them, like one of their attorneys withdraws or one of their legal advocates withdraws, there's still like 3 or 4 of them still on the claim that they get a part of the fee petition with. So that's a game that the big box law firms tend to do, which is, it's really sketchy and it's really shitty, and I feel bad about it, but there's nothing I can do about it. They play the games that they do. So you're going to call them, say, hey, can you withdraw for fees and rep? If they say, yeah, ask them to send you a letter, and they'll send the SSA a letter as well. If they're not willing to, then the problem you run into is that most other attorneys won't take the claim. And here's why. When I first started working with disability resolution 9 years ago, when my law firm, I worked for a couple of the law firms before that. But when I first started working with my law firm, a couple of the big box firms that were, Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and things like that, they made a lot of money off of me because they would, advertise a bunch. People would sign up with them. They would switch to me, and then they would send in a fee petition, and I would get a very small fee, and they would get a portion of the fee without doing pretty much anything. And so finally I woke up and I was like, you know what? I'm tired of making rich people rich. My student loans are still above 300,000. So, from 500,000. So the bottom line was like, I'm cutting that out. So the problem you're going to run into is that most disability attorneys that are really good at doing like the custom work, the detailed work, getting you prepped, getting the documents prepped, finding the things that need to be done, those disability attorneys usually will not take claims from people who essentially have an attorney that will not withdraw for fees. And so that's why you want to get the two of them, fees and representation. But what's going on with your situation?
Well, I need a hip replacement. I filed back last August because I've been unable to work, and I'm just trying to get by in the meantime.
Okay, so you're musculoskeletal now. You're a classic one for a CDR, which is a continuing disability review. Once you get the surgery, they're going to look at you to see if you're still disabled. But let me ask you this: what happened? I'm assuming you're walking. Have you been advised to get ambulatory devices? Have you been advised as to what you need to say to the doctor at this point?
No, I haven't.
All right, so you're going to need some musculoskeletal claims, right? When they're below the waist kind of claims, or when it's a swinging issue, when your arms are swinging, it throws you off balance. You need to have on file, okay, a prescription for a 4-prong cane, a prescription for a walker with a seat, and a prescription for a shower stool / shower chair. You got to have at least those 3 items on file, okay? What's your current age?
62.
Oh man, you're 62. So I mean, you're about to hit. Okay, so you're not going to be able to find a disability attorney to go ahead and work with you. And here's why: most disability attorneys will not take claims for people who are 62 because people who are 62 tap into the retirement, and the retirement benefits that people receive each month are what disability attorneys normally get their fee from, which is called the back pay. So the attorney just isn't going to be able to get paid for each month that you're on retirement. So I bet you if you call up your disability attorney and say, hey, I'm 62 and I'm getting retirement, I'm sure he'll withdraw for fees and rep because he's just can't get paid anything with that type of claim because you're already getting retirement. So I'm assuming, are you currently collecting retirement?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Are you expecting to in the not too distant future?
It has been in consideration. I finally got information regarding that last week.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know it was even an option at this point.
Okay. So, I mean, here's what happens with all these sorts of situations. You're going to look at the bank account, go, everything's okay. And then you're going to look at the bank account a couple months later and be like, oh, why did that happen fast? And then at that point, you're going to switch over, take the retirement. And then you're going to go ahead and fight to win and get onto disability benefits. Once you get onto disability benefits, SSDI, Title II, that's what they're called, Social Security Disability Insurance Benefits. At that point, you'll ride that. They'll take you off of retirement. You'll ride that all the way until you reach 66, 67. And then at that point, they'll switch you back over to retirement, but you won't get penalized for those extra months that you were basically for those months that you were on disability insurance benefits. You will be penalized for any months that you took early, though. So just keep that in mind.
Right. Okay.
Perfect. Excellent, good sir. Do you have any additional questions for me?
Not at the moment.
Perfect.
You covered it well.
Excellent. Well, good sir, you have a wonderful, wonderful night.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, good sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Excellent, guys. So we're going to go ahead and now go to the next phone call real quick. Let me get this rolling. All righty. Let's see if we can get this person on the phone real quick. Hold on. Ooh, that's a loud phone. You ever notice that some of these ring really loud? Let's see if we can get this person on the phone real quick. That's second ring. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. We are live on YouTube right now. Remember to use a fake name. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to go ahead and run hearing questions with you? Yeah.
Yes, I have a specific question,
Sure.
Attorney Hnot. It's actually regarding how much a person who is on SSDI with a small amount of SSI, how much can they work and earn without losing their benefits? I recently made 63, and my full retirement age is 66, 10 months. So just shy of 4 years. I did hear your program where basically you said a person can use the 9-month trial work period, make as much as their health allows them to do so, and then transition into the 36 extended trial period, which basically would take me out to 4 years, my full retirement age. Yeah. But my concern is, will Social Security cut you off? Will they do a CDR? That's my first question. Thank you.
So the big thing is this: they're getting more and more aggressive with what's called vocational profile changes, which is where all of a sudden, if you're earning a lot more, you're working full time, then you're opening yourself up to the potential of a CDR into your 60s. That only started to happen where they gave a damn about you being over 60 and doing CDRs around 2017 with Commissioner Saul. They've rarely did it before then. And usually it's because they were trying to find out if there was fraud or some sort of, misrepresentation on behalf of the claimant as to what they were claiming. So the big thing is this: yes, if you're working a full-time job, you can potentially run into a CDR. That's A. B, your SSDI benefits, the Social Security Disability Insurance benefits, those particular benefits have the pleasantry of the ticket to work, or rather the 9-month trial work period, the extended eligibility period, and also, which you wouldn't have to use, but you could always try it as a tactic, the ticket to work program. However, the SSI situation is a little bit different, and what you're going to run into there is that for every $2 over the 65-20 rule, so over 85, so every $2 over 85, they take away $1 from your SSI benefits. So you got to ask yourself, how much SSI benefits am I, because I'm guessing you're getting around $900 a month. Is that correct?
Yes, just a little more than that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect. So basically what that means is that, okay, so how much of that ratio is the SSI amount?
The SSI is about, I think, $209. I get a state supplemental payment of, I think, $112, and then maybe $98 in SSI.
So, okay, so basically what this comes down to, and Rose just donated $20, which thank you so much. That's really, really amazing. I really appreciate it. And that's for the COLA petition. So I'll have to put that aside. And just for everybody watching right now on the live YouTube channel, I am going to do a video specifically on how to sue the federal government to increase the cost of living adjustment. The sad thing is I can't sue them until basically something big happens, which is I'd have to sell my law firm. And I have another article right here to show exactly why, between basically two high-end attorneys at the Inspector General's office, which is like the attorney's office on behalf of the commissioner of the SSA, and them being biased against because they basically, red flag noticed the SSA about a practice that was wrong during COVID. And then they were basically biased against for the rest of their career there. But let's go back to your question, $200 something. So that, just so you know, what that equates to is a tough choice scenario, but not a super tough choice. You will go out and work, and let me ask you this: what are you trained in? Like, let's figure out what your hourly. Like, have you looked at jobs and what potential hourly you could get?
No, not really. I was potentially looking at some type of side hustle. I don't believe my health will allow full-time work, but like so many other beneficiaries, the payment amount is very low. You need to add some type of purpose in your life. And I was just giving the situation some thought, but not being able to work full time, then obviously I would not want to jeopardize my benefits. Mm-hmm. My other concern is also that when I reach full retirement age, my benefit level, even though, it will turn into retirement, it's so low that for the rest of my life, needless to say, you're stuck in poverty. Yeah. So that's another idea, that basically I've been giving some thought to.
Okay. So what type of industry, you don't have to tell me exactly, but like what type of industry and what's the ramp up for how much you're going to potentially earn per year?
Well, I was thinking about maybe sales online or some type of sales category. That was my history from the time I was a teenager. It was basically sales or some type of computer-related gig. No, I don't know coding. No, I'm not high-tech, the folks at Google. No, not in that way. But basically my history has been in sales.
Okay. So here's the thing. What a lot of people are doing right now is they're going online and selling jewelry, or they're selling, basically like makeup and stuff like that. And those people are, and the fake purses that look like the real purses, that's a huge, huge, huge thing. And so a lot of those people are doing pretty good, pretty well. They have to mass buy. So the problem you're going to run into with some of that stuff is that you have to mass buy the product from some distributor in China. And then basically you got to sell it at an increased rate. But with that said, if you can pull it off and do it like a lot of these other women are doing, and trust me, these women, they make way more money than I do. These women that do that stuff, they do very, very well. So what I would say to you is this: you're going to have to, in order to do that, get the funds to go ahead and basically, use it to, buy your initial items. The problem you're going to run into is that you have the SSI restriction of not having $2,000 or more in the bank. So you got to watch out for that. The other thing you got to watch out for is that the moment you start pulling in money, if it's, through your traditional means online and that something gets reported to the IRS, that's going to be a real quick heads up to the SSA that, hey, you're earning money and that they need to do an assessment, vocational profile. And remember too, this is a self-employment gig. Self-employment means that the SSA can attribute, like, even if you don't earn, let's say $800 in a week, right? let's say that instead, you know, you only earn 200, the SSA could still look at all the managerial functions that you're doing to run your own business online and say, well, we feel that she earned $800 worth of money, even though she didn't actually earn it. And they'll attribute that to an SGA calculation for the month, which is what's really tricky about that. So you're going to have to watch out for that self-employment SGA analysis, because they can attribute to you a much higher amount than you're actually earning. The next thing to watch out for is that, you know, ultimately, if you're earning real money, you don't care about $200 in SSI bucks a month. And that's good, because, you know, you're going to burn through that real quick. You know, the first 85, it's not going to hurt you, but every $2 after that, they take away $1. So, you know, keep in mind, if you're looking at essentially $200 and change, let's say you earn over $400 in change, that just wiped out your SSI benefits. So, you know, keep in mind, that's something to heads up with. But, you know, we're talking over a month. We're not talking a week. We're talking a full month here. So that means, you know, bottom line, that this is doable. Look, I know somebody in the industry that you're looking at. In fact, they used to work with this channel and do the moderator stuff, and now they're doing that stuff, and they're slowly building and building and building. But I tell you this because I know what the person was doing with it, and this is incredibly important. The bottom line with this whole thing is that the amount of time it takes for you to be online and sell this stuff, you got to be online all the time, and you got to have money that you earn from it put right back into advertisement. Because when these women first started doing this stuff where they were selling that kind of stuff, they didn't have to advertise a lot because it was new. But now there's a lot of women doing it, which means you got to advertise on the websites where you expect people to see you.
Mm-hmm. I see. I thought, you know, as you basically had indicated, I thought, frankly speaking, once you hit age 60 or your late 50s, that you basically were off the grid. You know, obviously you're older. You're not 25 to 35. And I thought the SSA basically would leave you alone.
So FRA, full retirement amount, that's when they don't care. That's when you can just, you know, earn whatever. But remember, for SSDI benefits, you know, you got an SGA limit, $1,350 per month, right? So you can't go over that. If you do, you're not disabled unless you're using your trial work period. But if you go into the extended eligibility period, you earn over that. You know what I mean? You don't get to keep the money, and you just breached, you know, your SGA, that substantial gainful activity limit. So the reality is, you hit 66, 67, they're going to switch over to retirement, earn as much as you want. But over the next couple of years, you have some limits that you're going to run into.
Yes, and that's the problem, because even though it's almost 4 years out, just shy of 4 years out, I mean, what do you do 4 years, honestly, sitting around doing nothing? You have to have something to do. I have done volunteer work from time to time, but I'm at a point in my life where obviously I want to be able to have more money to support myself and be more comfortable, but I'm not in a position where I have good health and I can say I can go out there and make it. I'm not, you know, in a well-connected situation where people sit on boards and they go, you know, they have meetings 3-4 times a month, and they're good for the whole year, you know, because the pay is so high.
Yeah.
But I just thought, right, at age 63, the SSA would leave you alone, because it's a senior. I mean, age 60, you consider the senior citizen.
They used to. I mean, they used to. But when Commissioner Saul came in, that all changed. Another big thing that changed it was that the computer systems, you know, the SSA was way behind technologically up until Commissioner Saul came in. And when Commissioner Saul came in, that was the guy who used to own all of those cachet stores for women's clothing in the mall. And basically, when he came in, he got a lot of funding to go ahead and upgrade a lot of the technology at the SSA. When they did that, people went more and more and more onto a calendar system. And that's when their systems were more able to speed up the process for sending out CDRs, these continuing disability reviews. And as a result of that, they're keeping them and using them, even though we have, in my opinion, a much more appropriate commissioner at this point, which is Commissioner Kijikazi. You know, and I'm staying away from politics on that thing, but I think she's a better pick for that type of job. So the bottom line, though, is you're right. Normally, you know, 10 years ago, not even, nobody would care. We wouldn't care. Nobody would care. It just wasn't a big deal. When you're at that age, they left you alone. But now you have to reach full retirement age for them to totally leave you alone. And that's the reality. That's the ticket. That's what full retirement age is really becoming. Because in the future, with the cost of living adjustment being way smaller than the actual inflation that we experience, the problem is a lot of retired people are having to sell their homes and constantly downsize, downgrade, whatever. The people that are doing the retirement with RVs, they're all VA people because they get a VA disability check, a pension, and they also get their civilian disability check. But all these just, flat out, they only get retirement people. They don't get enough money. And they're not in an RV. They're figuring out how to sell their home and get into a smaller place, and they're in a bad spot. And I think, keep in mind, I like to think of myself as somebody who's mentally capable when it comes to tough questions to figure out what the real question is. What you're really asking me, if I were to be so bold, is how do I make this work so that I have a better, latter part of my life? Holy cow. Somebody just donated $100. Wow. Golden Girls. Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Holy cow.
That's great.
That's incredible. Golden Girls. Wow. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for donating the $100. That's massive. That is absolutely massive. So guys,
great.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking these funds and putting them into I'm not sure what it'd be, like a bank trust or like a bank account that the bank has control over. I got to go talk to the banks and see who's willing to do one of those, because I would like to put together a trust fund, if you will, even if it's just like a trust bank account thing that basically can be used to, have a law firm do a class action suit against the government. It's not just the SSA, it's like the entire government, in order to go ahead and basically get the cost of living adjustment raised, because your benefits should be significantly, like double them higher than what they actually are as a result of the abuse of inflation and the abuse of how they calculate what your increase should be. But again, Golden Girls, that's just mind-boggling. Wow. Just wow.
Yes, I saw that show, your show where you indicated how they give raise increases to the judges at a much different rate to retain them. And how basically they know the COLA that they give to the Social Security beneficiary is just not keeping up. And that if it was actually accurately calculated, basically we would have almost double, than what we're getting if you compare it to 10. I think you used the barometer of 10 years ago. So I did see that show, and that was a great show. So, but what I would like to ask you then, so if I actually, let's say, found a part-time job, which I really, at this age, I don't want to go into, I just feel, I just feel I'm too far along in life to be taking orders. But it seems as if I went into a situation where I had an employer over me and I worked, let's say, 2-3 hours a week, and they reported the income, then Social Security may consider that safer because they would know exactly what I'm making, what I'm capable of doing, as opposed to if I engage in some type of self-employment where they could basically look and subjectively say, well, all right, maybe she's doing $400 a month, but based on the capacity or the different tasks that she's performing, she could actually earn $1,500 a month. Is that exactly what you're saying, that I would be safer if I actually went under an employer, which at 63, I just really don't. Even when I was in my early 20s, I really liked the entrepreneurial spirit. It was just not something that, was part of me.
So here's what I would say. The conversation you want to have with me is something that's not live, because then I can explain to you what the rules are, and then you can take those rules and do what you wish with them, because I have no control what you do with your knowledge. I have no control over that. So let me just give you a few boundary markers, if you will, with things to watch out for. As you know, the marketplace for buying and selling things is tricky because so many people are doing it now. The way that people traditionally succeed the most in answering your question, but also stepping around the problem, is that they buy things and then improve them and then sell them for a higher amount. What a lot of people don't realize is that the marketplace for improved items right now that have high inflation issues is where the money can be made. An example of that would be cars. So I know some people who are buying cars, getting them fixed up, and then basically reselling them at an increased rate. The problem you run into there is that you have an instant SGA violation unless you're an SSDI person and you can use a ticket to work month, which means you have a ton of income in 1 month. And then the next month and the next month, you don't have a car that's being fixed and sold. You just have a car that's being fixed. And then you go ahead and 3-4 months down the line, have another huge month, and that's another ticket to work month. And so without getting myself in trouble, do you see the boundaries that I'm giving you with how people are doing the best they can to keep the most that they can?
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, I do. One last question that I have, actually, is two. I may in the near future come into a moderate inheritance. Needless to say, I find it very upsetting that I don't have a pension. And you're absolutely right. I've noticed that a lot of older people are in the workforce. When I go about my routine, let's say, for example, whether it's a daily routine, whatever, I notice people who are clearly in their 60s or 70s, they're out there basically in a hustle. And years ago, it wasn't that way. Yeah. When I remember when I was in my 30s, people who were in their late 50s or 60s, they basically had left the workforce. So I'm left to think, and based on what I'm able to read online, older people who were healthy, some of them said they feel they'll never be able to stop working. I don't have a pension. If I come into a moderate inheritance, what would you recommend? I was looking at one of your shows, and I think you had suggested to one lady, I think she got all SSI, and she was very upset because she did not want to necessarily have to burn through her inheritance just to stay on SSI.
Yep.
Right. And it's who wants to be poor? You potentially get this money, and then you waste it just to honestly stay in a program that keeps you in poverty. What suggestions do you have? Is there any way, and someone may say this is a crazy question, but is there any way at this late point in life to obtain some type of pension? Because those are the people who have done well, and I think about my own family members, those were the ones who had the most economic stability later in life. They combined Social Security with their pension. So what would you recommend? Thank you.
So you hit the head. Look, all right. So you nailed it. And I can tell you're researching this because it's upsetting to a lot of people. And you're right. Back in the day, 50, 60 years ago, people would retire and they would be better off because of the cost of living inflation. Like they had more money from their retirement. The money meant more. They could do more with it. Certain groups did very badly back in the day. Native groups like the Hawaiians of Hawaii, or Native Americans or African Americans, they did very poorly because their jobs did not. A lot of them, they were under the table or they weren't paying that much, and they wouldn't be able to get as much out of retirement. That's slowly changing, which is good. But the problem we're now facing, which is why I did that readout about Martin Luther King, and I asked everybody, which speech is this from? Because he nailed it on the head better than any other politician, is that everybody's poor now. And the government basically gives us a promise, and that promise has not been kept. And we're going to the bank, and they're not able to go ahead and give us what they promised. So what this kind of comes down to is, okay, for the SSI person that called up before, that was a spend down principle problem, meaning that she got a lot of money, she couldn't have it in the bank, she had to spend it down, or else she was going to lose her benefits. She had a problem. You're an SSDI mostly claimant, which means that you put that money away. You have 1 month where you're not eligible, but the next month they don't care what resources you have. That next month, you could literally win a $1 billion lottery. $1 billion lottery on SSDI benefits, and then be ineligible in that month. Like you would have gone over SGA, substantial gainful activity, because it's over that $1,350. But the next month, that $1 billion that's sitting in the bank, no longer matters for SSDI benefits. So the trick with your situation is what you want to do is you want to go ahead and get chunks of money in particular months. You want to be able to show earnings for a particular month that is a chunk of money. And so your main focus, and look, here's another thing too. Somebody called me crying and freaking out during the week, and it was a female from California. And she's like, how do I get a pension? How do I get some sort of 401k? How do I get all these things? I'm 64 years old. And I said to her, look, here's the bottom line. The safest jobs in America when it comes to, inflation, pensions, benefits, everything are government jobs. Go get whatever government job you can. That's easy enough for you to do. A lot of government jobs, and we all make the joke, you just can't get fired from unless you do something absolutely horrendous. With all these private jobs out there, you don't perform, you're out on the street. The government jobs, you just got to do the job and they'll keep you forever. Even if you do something wrong, even if there's also, office gossip or you slept with somebody else's wife, they're still going to keep you. And I say that with actual definitive proof of I've seen that in a couple of these offices. So, the bottom line is go get a government job, even if it's a low pay, go get it. They'll hook you up with great benefits on the end. And remember, you don't care because you're going to be hitting Medicare. With your SSDI, you probably already have it because you're past the 24-month rule. So it's not about it's not about health insurance.
And I'm locked in because I'm 63 years old, and even if I was working, they give you that 8-year period for Medicare. So I'm glad that I'm locked in because at age 65, you have to go on Medicare. So I'm glad that at least health-wise, I'm locked into Medicare.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So your goal is maximize payout benefits. So not insurance, but what financial per month, how much increase per month can you get? And that's, when you start looking at these government jobs, and they're all out there, okay, so let me ask you the number one question that they're going to ask, and then the number two question that they're going to ask. Do you have any disabling impairments? Yes, of course, because you're on SSDI and SSI benefits. Awesome. Good. You got that. Number two, what's your criminal record? So if I were to, and you don't have to answer this, but, have you been in prison or jail?
I don't have a criminal record, thank God.
Okay.
No.
So, bottom line is you're a good candidate to go ahead and work for the United States government. And that's a good option for you,
And would I be able to, I guess it would depend on how much, add credits? I think I have like 22 credits. I think I have 22. And I know you have to have 40.
Yeah, you gotta have the 4.0. So here's the trick with that. They built, in my opinion, a shitty thing into it, which I don't like, but they did it without another option. Look, if I ever became president or a senator or one of those law passing individuals, what I would do is they have this rule. You can only get 4 quarters of coverage per year. And you got to get 40, which means, that's a lot, right? So you got 22 quarters of coverage, right? So you're going to need another 18 quarters of coverage. So, if we look at our options, and I mean, I can do more complex math on this, but, if we just do the basics on this thing, we do 18, that's 4 and so basically you're looking at like 5-6 years, basically.
5 years, right?
Yeah, working, well, it depends like how much you earn per year. Let's say you don't earn the max, let's say you don't hit the $6,500 each year. And remember, it's going to go up because of, the next quarter of coverage is going to be a lot more expensive. That's what a lot of people haven't been talking about. And I got to do a video on that too. But, so to buy one of these quarters of coverage by working, earning, paying taxes, they're going to be more expensive each year. So if I were to give you, like here, let me pull it up real quick. Quarter of coverage cost per year. A lot of people don't realize, but these little quarters of coverage, these little suckers get expensive relatively quickly. So and this is a real good point. This is a poof. Wow. I didn't even know what this was. So this video is me. Okay, so 2018, a quarter of coverage was $1,320. 2019, $1,360. So only like a $40 increase. 2020, $1,410, a $50 increase. 2021, $1,470, $30 increase. And 2022, now we're starting to get into the Biden stuff, $1,510. That's a $40 increase. 2023, $1,640. That's a $130 increase. That's a lot. That's a lot. So Yeah, that's not good. So the point is,
No.
it's getting a lot more expensive. So the bottom line is, let's say 6 years, whatever, you can work and earn and get your quarters of coverage. Now, if I were president, what I would do, well, because you need Congress to do this stuff, but what I would do is I would have a specific buy-in option. So if you had like a real big heavy hitter year, you could earn all the quarters of coverage you needed for retirement. It's just those quarters of coverage above 4 quarters of coverage would be essentially, a lot more expensive, because they like to spread them out so that you're paying more money over a longer period of time. But my argument against their system, and I think their system is shit. I've always said that, but I try to keep it not too whatever, because I don't want to offend people at the SSA. And remember, when I made that ALJ video about how much they make and what happened, I spoke with the clerk who said one of the ALJs saw that video. So I have to be careful with some of this stuff, because I own a law firm too that specifically works.
I know.
Right. So I got to be careful. Yeah. So.
Right. Well, I heard. Yeah, I saw that show.
Yeah.
Right. But
yeah.
Unfortunately, Walter, you're telling the truth.
Yeah.
And you're standing up. Unfortunately, you're telling the truth. You're not lying.
Yeah.
I mean, we are really in a bad situation. And it's not a crime to have become ill and impaired to the degree where you cannot support yourself 40 hours a week. So it's unfortunate that, you're telling the truth.
Yeah.
And I'm similar to that lady who's 62, says she's 64. You think, oh my God, I don't have a pension. The older you get, then of course your abilities become more limited. You might move a little more slowly. You might walk up the stairs a little bit more slowly. You slowly see yourself, all right, you are getting older. And at this rate, it's just not going to make it, So I'm thinking about, well, if I do obtain the moderate inheritance, I think you had suggested to the caller, well, what invested in real estate, because potentially that would generate some type of monthly income. What do you think about that? Thank you. I mean, it's obviously trying to replace the lack of a pension, potentially.
So here's my thing. The game of investing into trash to treasure. Okay, so you don't own a home right now, correct?
No.
So the wisest thing you can do, stay away from anything that's in a tall building where all you're doing is buying a square space that's literally the air there. You don't actually own, like air. Stay away from all of those, the condos. The other thing to stay away from are the community ones, the 55 plus community ones. Do not buy those. Do not touch those. Stay away from those. They control you. They control what they want, to do. Stay away from those. What you want is something that is a reliable vehicle you get your own acre of land. You have, a semi-nice, whether it's a single wide, double wide, triple wide, or just an older style house on the land. So when you get your inheritance, you buy that. And make sure that it has an extra room or two on it. That way you can go ahead and rent those rooms if you need to, or if you need somebody to just stay there and work the land as part of the rent and do things for you as you get older. That way you're set as well, because there's always a family member that, wants to get a little extra, money, or save a little bit extra money or whatever. And if you have somebody backing you in case there's a medical problem, they're there to help you out as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds good, and you've given great advice. It's just unfortunate that a lot of what you say, again, is very accurate, and I say that from my own personal experience and from what I observed. And honestly, I think the petition is a great idea, because I think about my own experience, and I know I'm just one of millions. Yeah. And why we're overlooked like this, I don't know. I just think in the supposedly richest country, the greatest country in the world, it just should not be this way. And there's promises that are made. I think there was supposed to be the Social Security, 2100 Act. That went nowhere. I don't know, the $200 increase, that went nowhere. And I don't really have high hopes that Congress is going to do anything about it. And that's the problem. It takes an act of Congress to actually improve the way the SSA responds or treat the beneficiaries. It literally takes an act of Congress.
Yeah. Oh, and that's my thing. Like, people say, hey man, why don't you go be an administrative law judge? And I even had, the way this works a little bit with that is, well, I can't even talk about that. But the point is, I started to begin that process and go through that. But there's another thing too with me. You got to remember, I started out with 500,000 worth of student loans just from undergrad, grad, MBA, master's, Juris Doctor, and additional certificates. So if you guys are wondering like why I seem like an educated person, it's because there's a lot of education there. But that's not what got me to this point. What got me to this point is owning a law firm for 9 years, working directly with the homeless. There's no attorney in the United States that has the experience I did, where I went out to the camps, worked with them, had to go into the woods to help them fill out their initial filings, all that kind of stuff. There's just nobody out there with that background. And the reason why, I turned out the way I did is because, look, we all know that the system doesn't work. We all have these other individuals out there, for-profit, nonprofit, political figures, who don't actually interact with the system in the direct way that I do. Like I, every single day, interact with the homeless, interact with the government, and know I have to be the intermediary. So what I would say is this, what's crucial going forward to fix this system is to not penalize people with quarters of coverage. Allow them to use their big years to basically pay more taxes to earn all their quarters of coverage up front. That way they're covered. They know they have retirement.
Right.
Once we fix the cost of living adjustment, people have enough money. The anxiety and depression goes way down, which means the money we got to spend on Medicare and Medicaid goes way down because you want to all these old people.
Right, exactly. Because when people are in a better state of mind, mentally and physically, is cost effective to the system. There's fewer visits to the doctors, whether it's psychiatrist, psychologist, or your primary care doctor, because your lifestyle is at a higher quality. And it's a direct correlation between the quality of life and how much time you spend in the doctor's office.
Yeah. And here's
the system would save money, and I don't understand, why they don't see this. But I was listening to your program when you said that one reason maybe the Democrats really are not necessarily improving Social Security to the degree that they stated they would is because if you keep people poor, then you can potentially keep them voting Democrat because they are supposed to be the party of the underdog. And that I really thought about that. I hadn't basically looked at it that perspective, but that really gave me a mental thought. I really thought about that.
So what's upsetting, and I have to be careful with the political thing because I got in a little bit of trouble with how people reacted to the prior political videos, because I showed specifically, what was going on, and the people. Look, I don't usually get any from the red party people, the elephant people, the Trump people, and things like that. Even though they're not all Trumpers, I usually get really blow up, angry, emotional calls from the people on the blue side of the field, the donkey side of the field, and what happens is they'll call up and we'll either get them on the phone and they'll just start screaming at myself or one of the staff members during the law firm hours, when we're working to get people disability benefits. And, my staff is sick of it because they don't get it, that what I'm telling them is working towards them having a better life. They're so deep into this ideology. And somehow, and I don't know what this is. Okay, the red people over here in the Republican Party, they expect more from America. They demand more from America. Whereas the people in the blue party tend to be afraid to ask for raises. Like that to them is greedy. That to them is wrong. And to me, the American people are the only focus at the top of the pile for why we have a government. Right? We have land that we live on. That's number two. But the number one is the American people. So for me to give raises to the American people, for the American people to have a better standard of living, that's crucial. And then, the people on the Republican side will be like, well, who's spending money on drugs or alcohol or heavy, or tobacco related products, blah, 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 blah. And to me, when people, like if I bring up Biden and then somebody counters with Trump, or I bring up Trump and somebody counters with Biden, we get nowhere. All we're doing is making up excuses for, why that behavior, should be acceptable because the other party did it once, or why that behavior isn't acceptable because they didn't do it for that other party. Like we all know when it comes to, Biden's son, that, these agencies aren't doing what they should be doing. And then when it comes to Trump and his children, they're like the best, like sleuthy. They find every little thing. They'll search everything. They'll break into houses. They'll take fire. They'll go to the attorneys. They'll do the best job they've ever done when it comes to, like, Scooby doing their way to what happened. And so, and when I look at all this stuff as a party who's saying, are these groups supporting the best interests of the American people? And then to see the American people so mind fogged and misled that I've started to just, I've realized this. First, it starts with a gauging factor. How do we lie to a person? That's what happens, right? And the government looks at their farm animals, which are all the Americans, and says, okay, well, how do we lie to the chickens and the cows and the donkeys and the horses and the this and that? And then once they get away with that lie, they get to continue to push it. And then when that lie starts to affect the outcome of the choices that the farm animals, us, the American people, actually make, that's manipulation, that's intent, that's fraud, that's criminal fraud. And the government, through essentially this whole idea of, creating a safe America, right? Our American freedom is safe because we have all these protections. These are the same protections that we're supposed to have that they use against us to essentially go ahead and remove our freedoms and guide us in wrong directions. And at the end of it, we end up in a bad place because we just, look, imagine a farm animal that begins in a big field and they're running around and there's a lot of grass and it's beautiful. And where are we at this point where there's no grass in the field? It's just a muddy field. We've got a halter on, we've got a saddle on, we got a plow on the back. We got basically somebody with the whip beating the hell out of us. It's not getting better. It's just getting worse. And all we're becoming are work slaves.
That's the problem, Walter. And I've lived long enough to see it. I think you had one of your shows, you had referenced how, right, with respect to your debt, oh my God, $500,000 is staggering. And you had said, well, people who are the baby boomers, which the generation I am in, you said they could make it. And you are absolutely right. I grew up in a time period where, I kid you not, 4 years of college, I came out with $8,000 worth of debt. Yeah. I tried to go to graduate school, and this was a second year graduate school level, second tier rather, not year, second tier. I thought at the time $26,000 for a master's was a lot, but that's what it cost me. If I was able to complete the program, it would have cost me. I wasn't able to complete it because of illness. I only completed one semester. Sure. Today, to get a master's degree for $26,000 is unheard of. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. The earlier generations could make it, and I considered myself fortunate because my parents were able to. They were in the unions, and I see it's totally different. And in my 20s, in my 30s, I didn't recognize how manipulated we are, but now I do. We're very manipulated. We're very controlled. We really don't have choice. So it's a very discouraging situation, and I don't really see, honestly, a lot of good things on the horizon. So, obviously, like everyone else, I'm thinking about self-preservation. How at this point in my life, what can I do without getting kicked off? And it is discouraging that now at 60, they're still willing to look at you, because I think after really 55, things should start slowing down. Yeah. Because you're not 30, you're not 35 anymore. You're not even 45 anymore. So, but I thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really do. You do great. You do great shows, and I already signed the petition.
Thank you. Thank you. Well,
yes, and I give donations.
Yeah.
I really do, because some of those other shows, they promise gold, and I don't know how they keep their listeners. Every show is $1,200 by the end of the week. Then the next week, $200 more, and it never happens. I don't know how those views hang on. And lastly, it's discouraging that people will attack you for basically saying, no, you should have a higher standard of living. If you're on Social Security, you should not be at the bottom like this. I can personally attest to that, because I've gotten kicked out of social media groups, whether it's Facebook platforms or whatever, for saying the same thing. You know, this shouldn't be. And one person, I think, actually said or typed in, well, this is the greatest country in the world. You know, where can you go and get these benefits? And I think you replied correctly, but there should be a standard by which people should not fall below. And I don't understand that type of mentality. You know, just because you became infirm, be thankful for having crumbs thrown your way. So, you know, just keep doing what you're doing.
I think you're
telling the truth, unfortunately.
And I want to make one point off what you said. I think you hit it again right on the head. I think that was it. That was the point. In America, we give people a lot of rights. There are rights that are not in the Constitution, but you have the right to do them, and people know what they are. You can, you know, and there's some are weird, some are simple. Some are the right to brush your teeth, the right to wake up at a certain time. You have all these different rights that aren't in the Constitution. But one thing that I think the richest country in the world should be adding to that pile is the backdrop that all people should have a baseline standard of living in this country, and creating more and more slaves to a system didn't work. Remember, they all look at the government, the ratio of people paying into the benefits to the amount of people receiving benefits. And what they look at and they say is, okay, we don't have enough people paying in. They've had, since the 1930s, the chance, almost 100 years, to figure out how to make this thing work. And they've abused it for 90 years. And they've allowed us to become more and more slaves to work, to pay into a system that they didn't fix. You got to sit back and think, like when those California people call me and tell me, you know, I shouldn't be telling people that people deserve more and that blah, blah, blah. When I get those calls, I feel really bad for them because their brain has been so manipulated. They don't even know what, you know, they don't even know. And at the same time, they'll then throw out there, they want to argue for universal basic income. Look, I agree. That's what food stamps to some degree are, a very imperfect version of universal basic income. That's what retirement benefits are. Now, not enough money in a version of universal basic income. You know, retirement and universal basic income are the same, except one of them has an age requirement. The thing that I like to point out is that if America wants people to invent new products and innovate and try new things, they have to make people not live in fear of death mode. And I said this to a buddy the other day, and he was insulted by it, but I'm going to say it to you, and I think it's important. Mother Teresa could not be Mother Teresa if she were born today, because she could not afford to do it, because there's not enough money for people to donate to her cause. And I think that that is a scary thing for an American to hear about somebody so great that if they made them into an American, they wouldn't have that capacity. And that's the thing here. We're seeing across the nation, nonprofits are starting to, because the money is not there by people to fund them in the way that they used to. And the inherent problem with that is that worst hit, you know, sections of that are those with, you know, wild animals and things like that, where they have to take care of them, feed them, and things like that. So, anyways, though, I'll let you go. You have a wonderful, wonderful night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you too, Walter, and keep up the good work, because you're kind of really a lone voice out there for the people on Social Security. You really are. You're a lone voice out there. But thank you, Walter, and you have a good evening.
You as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
So, guys, that was a really amazing phone call, because this is a person who literally hit on the exact problems that we're facing. And I'm going to do one more phone call. Let me go ahead and do this real quick. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. We are live on YouTube. Remember to use a fake name throughout this process. Would you like me to answer a specific question? Let me get the phone in the thing. Or would you like me to go ahead and run hearing questions with you? Go ahead.
I'd like you to run some hearing questions with me.
Oh, you made my night. Like I've run like with 5 people today. I ran hearing questions, but we never get to run hearing questions on YouTube on the live show. Like nobody ever calls in to do that. So you just like made my night. All right, cool. Do you want me to be all right? So the way I do it with the claimants, the intro, we do it slow, relax. Then we do it faster, and then I beat the hell out of them. I make it really, really tough. Do you want me to where do you want me to be on the spectrum of that?
Well, I have a hearing coming up in less than 2 weeks, and my attorney didn't prepare me for it at all. So just go as hard as you can so I can be as prepared as I can, I guess.
So we're going to fire the cannons. That's-
Yeah.
okay, gotcha. All right, let me get this. I don't know what's in my receipts. All right, let me. All right, so we're going to use a fake name. So I'm going to ask you for your name. Make sure you give me a fake name. Good sir. What is your full fake name for the record?
John Smith.
Excellent. Can you tell me what is your date of birth, current age, and are you left or right-handed?
My date of birth is 6/29/94. I'm 28 years old and I'm right-handed.
What are your top 5 most severe disabling medical conditions?
It's going to be mostly my mental health. I have PTSD, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, dissociation.
Okay. So can you tell me out of all those, which is the most severe?
The depression.
The depression, when did it start and when did it become severe?
It started when I was a child. It became most severe about 2.5 years ago.
When was the last time that you worked over the record or on the record?
2.5 years ago.
And what did you do for a vocational profile? What did you do for work?
What I was doing was insurance sales.
Okay. And how did that go? What happened to that job?
It was going well. But what happened was I was molested as a child, and I saw my cousin at a funeral.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one that molested me,
Mm-hmm.
and it caused a lot of panic attacks and PTSD issues to come up. And so I ended up quitting my job because I could no longer work or focus or do anything. I was having so many panic attacks and flashbacks and nightmares in my sleep and severe depression. I was crying constantly, and I wasn't able to work anymore.
So did you quit? Did you get fired?
I quit my job.
Did they give you accommodations leading up to the months before you were terminated or that you quit?
No.
Okay. So can you tell me this? Did you try and find another job thereafter, and why not?
I've worked a little bit doing like Uber driving, like Uber Eats and DoorDash.
Mm-hmm. And have you been successful with those jobs, or have you stopped completely doing those jobs?
I've done maybe a few hours a week every few months. I keep trying to go back to it, but I just can't do it.
When you say you can't do it, what does that mean?
Mostly the dissociation. When I'm driving, I'll dissociate with flashbacks of memories of being abused, and I'll completely zone out, and it's not safe for me to drive anymore. It's like everything around me is just not real, and I feel really lost and confused, and so I end up stopping and going home.
Okay. Now, when this question comes up, you got to give me a more flowery response, because this is the question where you sell the judge on the reality that you are too disabled to go ahead and do a simple job. So walk me through, answer that question again. How do your impairments limit you from doing those drive around and deliver jobs? But I want to hear a story specifically where something went wrong. Go ahead.
Okay. So once while I was out on delivery, I was delivering food somewhere and dropped it off. And then I had a flashback of being sexually abused as a child. And with that came a lot of panic attacks, and I was having severe panic and really depressed. And because of that, I went into a dissociative state where I felt like nothing was really real around me, and I couldn't drive, I couldn't focus. When I drove home, everything was like a blur around me, and it was really scary. And because of that, I wasn't able to continue to work.
Okay. So when people disassociate or have PTSD, when I ask them for a specific story or what happened, they always stay off of the personal effects of the flashbacks and nightmares that they have. But this is where you have to bring them up as to what happened while you were driving. So give me a specific event, a specific night that was really bad. Walk me through it.
It's been months since I've worked. A
little bit, because that's your selling point. That's the moment where you're going to sell the judge on your inability to work other types of jobs in the national economy that are simple. Baker Acts,
Okay.
how many have you had?
I've been hospitalized 6 or 7 times in the last year and a half.
Okay. And with these Baker Acts, how many days were you in there for, and what were they treating you for other than the Baker Act?
Well, 5 to 7 days. They were treating me for the depression, panic attacks, and suicide, being suicidal.
Okay. What kind of medications are you taking? What side effects do you have as a result of them?
I'm taking a mood stabilizer. I'm taking a depression medication, and I'm also taking an anxiety medication. Mostly they make me drowsy and dizzy.
Okay. When it comes to simple instructions versus detailed instructions, are you able to follow detailed instructions? And if you're not, why do you have difficulty with them?
I'm not, usually because I'm just really depressed and down. I don't have a lot of energy or focus. And so I'm not able to follow detailed instructions.
Okay. When it comes to concentration, how long can you concentrate for? And what seems to be the main thing that pulls you out of concentration and concentrating?
I can usually focus for around 30 minutes or so at the most. Usually because I'm having flashbacks or I'm just, severely depressed and I just don't have the energy of the concentration. I also suffer from anhedonia, which is a severe lack of interest in pleasure and activities that you used to enjoy. And I just don't have the energy. Most of the time I spend most of the day in my bed. And I have panic attacks. They keep me from leaving the house. And yeah, I have to deal with that all day long, basically.
Are you able to maintain regular attendance with other functions like going to the doctor? And when you were working, were you able to show up on time, be punctual and tolerant of others?
I go to my doctor once a week. I see my therapist. I see him once a week. When I was going to work, I was usually late going to work because of the depression, but I end up quitting my job, and so I stopped working.
Okay. What is your current routine on your daily activities?
What sort of activities?
So when you wake up, what do you do until you fall asleep?
Okay, so when I wake up, I usually wake up around 9 o'clock in the morning. I lay in bed for about an hour or so until I get up. I use the restroom. I have something to eat and drink. I usually sit down and try to listen to music or something to help me stay calm. I take my medication. Usually my wife gets home around 2 o'clock and she helps me stay calm. She'll just talk to me. I'll talk to her about what I've been thinking about all day, like with the depression, like the flashbacks, the memories. After that, I'll have dinner, which my wife usually cooks for me, and then take my medications and go to bed.
Do you have any children?
No children.
Do you have any pets?
I have 3 cats and 1 dog.
What seems to be the thing that distracts you the most throughout the day?
What distracts me the most throughout the day?
Yes, correct.
Like what keeps me busy, I guess.
No, what distracts you? So if you were doing something, what distracts you or what keeps you from doing things the most? Like, is there something that happens around the house? If a neighbor arrives, if somebody's delivering a package, what happens?
Oh, well, mostly this the depression. I just have like soul crushing depression. It's just like nonstop bothering me in my head. And the panic attacks.
Okay.
That's usually what distracts me most of the time from trying to do anything. Like if I try to watch a TV show, I usually end up losing like what's going on, forgetting what's going on. So I just stop watching. Same thing for like movies. I don't really watch any movies. The panic attacks and the suicidal thoughts, those kind of things just distract me and keep me from being entertained from them.
Okay. After you finish feeding the dogs and the cat in the morning, can you walk me through, do you take them for walks? What do you do with them?
I don't feed them. My wife feeds them before she leaves for work. She also walks them. My brother-in-law walks them before they leave for work, and then also when they get back home.
Okay, so what do you do with these animals? How do you take care of them? How do you interact with them?
I usually don't interact with them much. Sometimes the cats will, spend time near me, especially like if I'm really upset or if I'm crying. The cat will come and sit next to me or sit near me. They can kind of tell if I'm really upset. Other than that, I don't spend time with them. I don't walk them or feed them myself. My wife and my brother-in-law do that.
Do you have difficulty dressing yourself in the morning, and how often do you change your clothing?
I don't have difficulty changing myself. I do sometimes have trouble putting on my socks. I do have chronic back pain as well. But putting on my socks, tying my shoes, I have trouble with because of the bending. But I change my clothes usually maybe once or twice a week.
Okay, let me ask you this. Are you able to interact with the public beyond your doctors, beyond your family members that you see on a daily basis, such as, for example, neighbors or other people that might interact with you while you're going out to get the mail?
No, I don't interact with anyone else. Like even old friends that I used to spend time with, I don't talk to them anymore.
Remember, I put words in your mouth. I said, when you go get the mail, do you go get the mail?
Oh, no, I don't get the mail.
Perfect. Can you tell me this, when it comes to taking criticism from other people, whether it's somebody you know or don't know, how do you handle taking criticism or supervision from others?
I don't really take any criticism from other people. I don't have anyone that really criticizes me. So I don't really know. I don't really talk to anybody besides my therapist and my wife.
When it comes to video games, what type of video games do you play?
I don't really play video games anymore. I used to, but because of the depression, I just don't have any interest in them anymore. I once in a while will try to play something like Call of Duty, but I just can't seem to focus on it because of the panic attacks and the depression.
Let me ask you this. When it comes to you interacting with, things at home, what seems to be the thing that you do the most for fun to go ahead and, just pass the time?
I usually listen to music. It helps me stay calm.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what kind of music do you listen to?
It's just relaxing background music.
Oh, what kind? I mean, walk me through it.
I just look up relaxing background music,
Mm-hmm.
and I play that. It will be like waterfalls or like different like kind of chimes and sounds and outdoor sounds, some stuff like that.
Okay. Can you explain to me, what do you spend the most time doing online?
I don't really go online that much, but sometimes I'll look up stuff about coins. My wife, when her dad passed away, left a bunch of coins.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll look up a little bit of stuff about the coins once in a while if I get interested in them.
Do you know how to use a laptop? I'm assuming you know how to use a phone, but can you also use a laptop?
Yes, I can use a laptop a little bit. I don't know like a lot about it, but I can turn it on and I can use it to look things up.
Do you know how to use a Microsoft Word-like program, where you type into it and you can print out something like a piece of paper or a letter?
I can't like create documents or anything like that, no.
Why not?
I've never been taught how to. I've never learned.
Would you be able to learn it if you had some time to Google around? Careful.
I don't know. Never tried. But I do struggle with like learning new things because of the anxiety and the depression.
Okay, but why do you struggle with the depression specifically for learning how to do a Word document? Walk me through that. That's what the question is. That's what the judge is going to be getting at. So, yeah, walk me through that.
It's just a severe lack of interest. I just have no energy to do it. I just feel really tired, really sad all the time. And I don't even have the energy to do things that I like to do.
Walk me through the steps, though. You would approach the computer. You would attempt to do it. What would happen?
Okay, so if I went to the computer and attempted to do it, I would sit there, I would look it up. I'd start watching the video and then probably just turn it off because I'd lose my interest really quickly. I do that with a lot of things. I start a lot of projects and don't end up finishing them. Like, for example, I talked to my wife about having some things I could do around the house to help her. Things like little chores or something I could do.
Yeah.
Like making the bed. And I tried to do it, but most of the time I just end up sitting on the couch and just sitting there and nearly crying and not being able to get up to do it.
Well, since you're home all day, couldn't you do the laundry, maybe cooking and cleaning, that kind of stuff?
I don't do the laundry. Again, I'm so depressed and just tired feeling all the time that I just don't have the energy. Same with the cooking. I make myself food. I'll make myself a sandwich or microwave a meal like for lunch or breakfast. But I usually don't eat that much either way because I just feel so depressed all the time.
It sounds like me like you could do a Walmart greeter job, something where you didn't have to remember a lot. You can maybe look at the receipt or something like that. Is that a job that you might be interested in?
I don't think I could do that job. I don't think I could be around that many people. I don't think I could handle talking to people. I don't think I could handle standing there all day long and like seeing so many different people and having to talk to them. I'd have a lot of panic attacks, and then the dissociation would cause me to be distracted all day long, and I would lose my focus.
Describe for me what a panic attack is like. Remember, the judge is going to cut you off. Describe for me what a panic attack is like. What happens before, during, and after?
So before a panic attack, sometimes it can be triggered by a flashback, or it can kind of come up all on its own for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
What'll happen is, like, the first thing I usually notice is my heart starts to beat faster, and then I feel like I can't breathe, and then part of my body will feel like it's feeling numb. My mind will start racing, and then I just get into like a panic mode, and I feel like I'm going to die.
All right, so I want to do a summary, of what I'm thinking as somebody who's been through a lot of hearings, as somebody who's done a lot of testimony with people. The first thing I'm thinking is you've run out of descriptive phrases and terms for what's going on. So being able to describe better how these things are problematic for you, using more personal memories that keep coming back and explaining why those are problematic are crucial to these types of claims of depression, anxiety, and of course, in this sense, PTSD. Also, doing a better job of explaining what you do throughout the day, because to me, you've put my testimony of what do you do throughout the day? Well, it sounds like you just sit in a chair and don't really do anything. But to me, that doesn't sound trustworthy. So I have to know, is there a favorite chair? What is the chair like? What does the chair look like? You've got to fill in so that my brain, you know what I mean? And that's what these judges are. These judges are the best of the best of the best disability attorneys for the most part. And there's some bad judges, but most of the administrative law judges are the best of the best of the best disability attorneys. And as a result of that, our brains like detail. And they like detail because we like to create pictures. When we read a book, we read it and we see, I don't want to put it this way, but a very large map, and as a result of that, I don't know what your house looks like. I don't know where you spend most of your time in that house. I don't know why, you have a difficult time looking outside when all the windows are closed and all the shades are shut and all the doors are locked. I don't know what are the things that you do as a result of having these impairments. So I'm going to ask you and try it. You don't have to be good at it. You don't have to be good. Remember, this is just a testing thing. But can you tell me what are the unique things that you do in your house that a person without your impairments would not normally do?
Okay. Well, some of the things that I do, I constantly check the door. make sure the door that it's locked. Same with the windows, even though I'm a second story up. I also work out the lock. I pace around a lot because I'm very anxious, and pacing helps me kind of regulate my energy.
Mm-hmm.
Because my heart will start racing a lot. I'll just need to get up and move and literally be shaking. I try to do some things throughout the day. Like I'll try to get on the computer, or I'll try to play a video game or something. But I end up usually just becoming too depressed and losing my concentration and my focus and giving up on playing or watching a TV show, watching a movie. A lot of the time I will have crying spells due to the depression and flashbacks of being sexually abused. Things like that.
When it's storming outside, do you get more depressed?
No.
Okay. When it's very bright outside and you see people, doing things, do you tend to go into the other room?
No, I just don't really pay attention.
Okay. When it comes to, a particular room in the house, which is your favorite room to stay in?
I mostly stay in the living room, unless I'm really tired. Like I said, with the depression and the medications, both making me really tired. I do take naps. I usually sleep somewhere between 12 to 14 hours a day.
Okay. You did well. There's some shaping things that you got to work on. Give me a call next week on Thursday so we can run them again. I didn't want to beat up on you too much. I did try some of the basic little tricks, which is to say you're doing something. You caught the first one, which was after you feed the dogs and the cat, what do you do thereafter? You caught that one. You didn't catch the second one, but that's okay. You're getting used to it. Every time the judge basically states something that you're doing, and then what do you do about it, or how do you interact with what results from it? You always have to ask yourself, do I actually do that thing? Another thing to stay away from is you seem like it varies type of guy. It varies on this type of day, or it could be this, or it could be that. Stay away from that. Give the average, but give the statement as to what's actually going on. Another thing that is crucial is, how men tend to be terrible at describing different colors, and women know colors and all types of names for colors and things like that. One of the things that will be particularly difficult for you is the dissociative disorder is going to make you less likely to use descriptive terms to describe the impairments, which is going to hurt you in the hearing as a trial tactic because the judge is not going to connect as much with your particular story. You're getting better at it. But if I were to ask you, what are the colors of the walls in your house, what would you say?
I'd say they're white.
Okay. But what does that tell me? You said they're white. Or did you say they're light or white?
White.
Okay. And can you tell me, how does that make you feel as a result of it?
I don't feel any type of way about the color of the walls, I guess.
Okay. So your big thing is proving that you have zero desire, right? You don't care. You don't interact with things. You don't want to be part of them. So what you have to sell to make the judge understand that is that there are these amazing things going around you with color and brightness and yada yada, but that you have zero connection to them. And that zero connection makes you unable to work. You can't drive. You can't interact with the public. You can't sit there and type into a computer because you just end up staring at a wall.
Right. Okay.
Perfect. Good, sir. You did well. You did very well. Look, I don't know who the attorney is. I don't know what judge you have, but you did very well. Keep working it. Give me a call next week. The big thing is this. It's different when you get in that hearing room and the judge starts asking you questions. The main thing to remember is that all the questions are based around why can't you work the job you used to with the jobs, and why can't you do other types of work? Why can't you do household activities? And how do your impairments really limit you on trying to be social with other stuff? It could be people, could be, groups, stuff like that. So focus on those, get some more descriptive terms, and you're rocking. So you have a wonderful night, good sir. And thank you for running questions for me,
Yeah, thank you so much for the help. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, good sir. You have a wonderful night, okay?
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So guys, that was awesome. He did an amazing job. That was really, really good. Most people, especially with dissociative disorders, don't do well with hearing questions right up front. And he massively improved like midway through these hearing questions, and his brain was working and thinking. So there's a person that's doing analysis in there. It's just getting his brain to want to do it and understanding the reason for why he has to do it is really tough for somebody like that. Guys, so you guys have an absolutely amazing night. I am super duper tired. I'm not feeling well tonight. I don't know what the deal is. I'm just super duper tired. I worked for 5 hours in the barn yesterday. I was clearing stuff, moving stuff, organizing stuff. So, you know, I'm just super tired. I worked from like 10 until, I don't know, it was like 2-ish, 3-ish or whatever. But you guys have a wonderful night. I will catch you later. And thanks so much for just hanging out with me. You know, Thursday nights are our big nights. I didn't call a security expert because he didn't text me with an update that he was ready to go. But we will have some big updates from him in the not too distant future, which I'm really, really excited about. So I'll catch you later. You have a wonderful night. We'll go from there. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.